I used to overspend at the store, say yes to everything, and lose hours scrolling on my phone. Then, 5 years ago, I stumbled upon minimalism, and little by little, everything started to shift. I realized that the things we do once in a while don't shape our lives. It's the habits we repeat, day in and day out, that truly make the difference. So I started questioning the way I spend my money, time, and energy. And today, I want to share 21 bad habits I now avoid as a minimalist. Shop without a list or plan. Going shopping without a list often leads to impulse buys. When I go to the supermarket, especially when I'm hungry and I don't have a shopping list, I tend to buy all the bad foods. So a shopping list keeps me focused. If it's on the list, I know I need it and I thought it through, and I'm not spending any money that I don't want to spend. Spend without budgeting or planning. A shopping list will keep your spending in check in the short term. A budget will do this in the long term. If you don't budget for things like holidays, Christmas gifts, or car repairs, it's easy to overspend and end up in debt. But if you've budgeted for it, when your car breaks down and you need to bring it to the garage, it's okay, because you know you can afford it. Budgeting and living within my means give me the peace of mind that if something like that happens, I know I'm not in immediate financial trouble. Use credit cards excessively without paying off the balance monthly. In the Netherlands, where I'm from, most people pay with their debit card. I personally do use a credit card, but only when I have to. Like when renting a car abroad, or booking a hotel room, or buying an online course or product. So I'm always shocked how easy it is to get and use credit cards in the US, and how easily people can end up with high-interest credit card debt. Unpaid balances can add up quickly. You'll pay a lot more, and it causes a lot of stress. If you live within your means, you can avoid credit card debt by paying off your balance every single month. And if you're based in the US, you can even generate free money through reward points. And that's something I'm actually jealous of. My single European credit card doesn't award me any points. Carry debt for things that depreciate in value. A good example is trucks. I love listening to Ramit Sethi's podcast Money for Couples, and he always goes on a rant when he learns that a couple bought a truck. Because trucks are expensive, they often come with high-interest loans, and really for most people they're a want, not a need. As a minimalist, I don't want to be in debt. Especially not for something that decreases in value, like the truck I just mentioned, or a new car that you buy from the dealership. It loses 20% of its retail value the moment you drive away from the dealership. If I'm going to be in debt, it's for something that increases in value and goes beyond my savings, so I can afford it with my own money. And the obvious example would be buying a house. Lifestyle inflation. I just mentioned Ramit Sethi's podcast, Money for Couples, in which he often has couples on that have a joint income of hundreds of thousands of dollars, yet somehow they're still living paycheck to paycheck. That just baffles me. They've often fallen for the trap of lifestyle inflation. As their income increases, so does their spending on wants, not needs. So they'll have a house that's bigger than they need, multiple cars, they'll order takeout all the time. That puts you in a constant state of anxiety. You're always one unexpected expense away from financial disaster. Instead of upgrading their lifestyle, a minimalist uses their increased income to save or invest for future security. Spend to impress others. As a minimalist, I spend my money on things that are in alignment with my values and long-term priorities. So that means I invest in things that have long-lasting value or that I find meaningful. I don't care about having the latest gadget or fancy car because I know fulfillment comes from within, and not from the admiring looks from my family or colleagues. So then, keeping up with the latest trends or showing off what I have becomes meaningless. Say yes to every invitation. When you say yes too often, it's easy to get overwhelmed, especially if it goes at the expense of things you deeply value, like family time, pursuing your interests, or living more slowly. I used to be much more of a yes person. If I wanted to be in control of my time, I had to master the art of saying no. If you say no here, you say yes here, to yourself. Neglect time for yourself to recharge and reflect. After I decluttered my apartment for the first time, I realized minimalism is a tool to clear the canvas. But the goal isn't a blank canvas, it's about what comes next. Starting to paint or draw on it, but this time with intention. So I asked myself, what kind of life do I want to live? And the answer I came up with was that time is my most valuable asset. It's non-renewable and you can't buy more of it. One way I protect it is by limiting the amount of people I spend time with. I'd much rather have a small group of close friends with whom I can have meaningful conversations Then a ton of acquaintances with whom I mostly make small talk. I hate small talk. I also enjoy my own company, spending time alone. I need that to recharge my battery and to reflect on where I'm at in life. Ignore clutter. Clutter is like the annoying roommate who doesn't pay rent. Who wants that? I don't want that. That's why I immediately do the dishes after having dinner. And if guests show up unannounced, they're welcome because our home is always organized. If you're new to minimalism and you don't know how to get started, I created this free How to Get Started with Minimalism checklist, which you can download in the description below. Prioritize quantity of relationships over quality. True fulfillment comes from building deep, genuine relationships where both people are invested in each other's growth and well-being. And you can't do that with too many people. If you spread yourself too thin, you won't be able to go deep. That's why I value the quality of a relationship much more than how many I have. Maintain toxic friendships out of obligation. I've cut ties with people in my life or at work who repeatedly caused drama or left me feeling empty. And letting go of toxic friendships can be difficult, but it creates space for more meaningful, healthier relationships. And one way of looking at it is, if my life is a building, does this person take me to the penthouse or to the basement? I'd rather not go to the basement. Go into debt for non-essential purchases. With high inflation and the cost of living crisis, life is expensive for average income earners like myself. And one thing to handle that is to try to make more money. But it isn't always easy, at least not for me. Another thing what you can do, is to look at your spending, see where you may be overspending and try to cut that. And also try to avoid going into debt for things you don't need. Seek approval from others instead of staying true to themselves. I used to give too much credit to other people's opinions, but constantly seeking approval from others is unhealthy, and it's also exhausting. There's always someone out there who is better looking, smarter, or more successful. As a minimalist, I now value authenticity and living in alignment with my values, instead of trying to fit into someone else's mold. Give thoughtless gifts that add clutter to others' lives. To my surprise, my brother once gifted me a book about the Cosa Nostra or the Sicilian Mafia for my birthday. And I say to my surprise because I had a wish list with 2 books on it, but neither was about the Mafia. So it turned out that he actually had bought this book before I shared my wish list because he wanted to read the book himself. So he figured if I give it to my brother, I can borrow it from him. Now, it's all good, I love my brother, and I just got the receipt and exchanged that book for one of the books that I actually cared for. But it taught me a valuable lesson. Now when I give a gift to someone, I try to be mindful not to give them something they don't actually care for, because I don't like clutter in my own home. So if they have a wish list, that's great, and if they don't, I try to think of something they already use, but can I get a nicer version of it? So that might be quality coffee beans or a really nice olive oil. Years ago, I heard a great example of gift giving on the Tim Ferriss show. He interviewed Alan Robinson, who is pen pals with Warren Buffett. Robinson prides himself in being a great gift giver, and he knew that Warren Buffett had sold Beeman's gum as a child. So he was able to track a candy collector online who still had an ancient pack of 50-year-old Beeman's gum. He bought it and then had it framed and gave it to Warren Buffett for Christmas. Now that is a thoughtful gift. Associate happiness with acquiring more things. There's this quote by the Stoic Epictetus. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And I think that's spot on. At best, buying a new thing can give you a temporary feeling of joy, but it won't last. And in many cases, it can create this cycle of dissatisfaction as the novelty of each new item wears off. And in the meantime, you will have gathered so much clutter around your house and your wallet will be empty. True fulfillment and happiness comes from within, from experiences, relationships, and personal growth. Spend hours scrolling mindlessly on social media. I don't see anything wrong with checking social media every now and then, especially when it comes to seeing what my family or close friends have been up to. But I don't need to know what they ate for breakfast every single day. We've all read how excessive social media use can have a negative impact on your mental health, from playing the comparison game to lower self-confidence and social anxiety. But I don't need studies to confirm that. I know this from my own experience. When I spend hours on social media, I never feel great afterwards. As a minimalist, I'd like to spend my time intentionally. When it comes to relationship, that means I prefer meaningful in-person conversations, or if that's not possible, video calls. And I enjoy doing activities that stimulate my mind, not numb it. overbook your schedule. A highly ambitious workaholic may say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. But I'd rather sleep tonight and get a good 8 hours of it. Rest is important. Also, not every moment needs to be filled with activity. I like having time to breathe for spontaneity. That's why I'm careful what I say yes to, so I don't overbook my schedule. Skip rest or downtime. There's a misconception that productivity means constant activity. But rest and downtime are just as essential. I get my best ideas not behind my desk, but when I'm walking, swimming, or doing grocery shopping. I'm not saying hard work doesn't matter, it definitely does. But it goes hand in hand with rest. It's all about balance. Obsess over perfection. Perfectionism is something I struggle with a lot. I remember when I built my first e-commerce website. It's no longer online, but at the time I was very excited about it. And I spent days trying to come up with the perfect color combination for my website to look pretty and pop to new viewers. But it didn't matter because the product I had chosen had very low margins and my business was never going to be profitable.
Slow juicer is een machine waarbij je sap kunt persen uit allerlei harde of zachte groenten en fruit. Daarnaast kun je ook soep maken en zelfs verse amandelmelk.
That experience taught me a valuable lesson. Don't overthink it. Do the work, put it out there, and then you can always course correct later. Avoid seeking new challenges. When I first learned about the concept of a growth mindset, I felt liberated. It's the belief that intelligence and talents are not fixed, but can be improved. Sure, failure is part of the deal in life, but when it happens, it doesn't mean I am a failure. I've now embraced this. I love learning or trying new things. An example is this video you're watching right now. I'm shooting it in 20 different locations, which I didn't have to do. I could have just sat down in my living room and shoot everything in one take. But I love trying new things and pushing myself creatively. And hopefully it's also more entertaining for you to watch. Focus on control instead of trusting the process. Trying to control every detail in life is impossible. It just creates anxiety and stress. The only thing that's certain in life is that everything is uncertain. You and I were just a blip in time and space. I know that sounds negative, but that's kind of how it is. We live in a universe where most things happen beyond our control. So I had to dial that down a bit in my life, learning to go with the flow more and trust the process. That doesn't mean being passive. It just means having faith that hard work and the right mindset will bring me closer towards my goals, even if there's road bumps along the way. In fact, I now expect them. I've got enough life experience to know that road bumps, or sometimes massive roadblocks, will show up at some point. But that's okay, because I trust that eventually everything will fall into place. Speaking of trusting the process, this list isn't a manual for how to be a minimalist. It's more meant as inspiration for your own minimalist journey. Minimalism is not a doctrine, a rigid set of rules you need to follow. It's a tool to remove clutter and create space so you can bring more joy to your life. That begins with being mindful how we spend our money. We work hard for it, so we shouldn't waste it on pointless things. That's why I stopped buying a bunch of crap. I talk more about that in my video 50 things I don't buy anymore as a minimalist, which you can watch right here. So thanks for watching today's video. I hope you got some value out of it and I'd love to see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.